Hi, I'm Eric Linask. We're here at Cloud Expo in New York. I'm talking with Sean Lorenz from Xively. Sean, great to have you with us.
Good to see you. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. A lot of interesting stuff, a lot of exciting conversations today. A lot about IoT. And I know that we've talked in the past a little bit about Xively and LogMeIn, but talk a little bit about where you fit into the IoT ecosystem.
Sure, yeah. So Xively is an IoT platform. We've been around for several years now. But IoT platform has kind of become a kind of nebulous, what does that mean kind of term. So really what we've started to do is not just offer this kind of general IoT platform idea. We're kind of focusing on more kind of the guts of where we fit in the IoT stack. When you have your connected product, we may basically enable it, connect it, manage all those devices at scale, and do it securely and kind of really quick. So we really focus on the connectivity aspect of that. A lot of times people don't realize how difficult just connecting your product to the Internet of Things, really is. So we've done a really good job the last couple of years of making sure we can do that fast.
Got it, sure. Aside from all the different market segments or verticals, really two key areas that we're seeing a lot of activity around, and that's consumer and industrial IoT. Where are you seeing the majority of the traction?
So Xively, since we tend to have a more kind of public, we're much more cloud focused. Industrial tends to be a little more M2M, a little more on-premise. So since we're a cloud-based solution, we definitely see more consumer and business kind of focused customers. So we see across all verticals, but we've been actually having a lot of response, especially in the consumer space. So we're helping a lot of manufacturers who are creating products, trying to get them to market, and we basically have become the kind of backbone for helping them get that connectivity and managing all those connected products at scale.
So you mentioned seeing activity across a number of different verticals. Are there any that stand out in terms of activity?
Not really. I mean, it's honestly everybody. It's pretty much anyone who's creating a physical product in this day. They're pretty much have either on their roadmap or in production some sort of connected device on the roadmap. It's just everybody's doing it. You name it. If you're a large company, you have some way you're trying to figure out how to connect your stuff.
If you're not connected, you're not connected.
Yeah, so it's a big competitive issue at this point. A lot of companies feel like if they don't, they're going to start having their competitors outweigh them, so they keep coming to us to say, look, we want to do this. The real issue is, do you have a real reason to, and do you have a business case? And we want to help you find that.
So for companies who are just getting started, and maybe it's a brand new startup company, or maybe just looking at how, why, and the process of becoming connected or getting started in IoT, how do you suggest people go about that?
Mm-hmm. So I do not. So there's this kind of the build versus buy problem, right? And a lot of people come to us and have said, we tried to build it ourselves and it just broke. It failed. Hashtag fail, fail whale, whatever you want to call it. We basically have discovered that these companies do try to do it, but a lot of times, manufacturers, they're not in the software business. They've been creating physical products, for a couple hundreds of years in some cases. If you're a coal mining industry, and you're suddenly connecting your mines, you're not used to having software and security glitches and building applications. So a lot of times they have to rely on a company who's done this, and this is their core competency. So we usually say don't do it yourself. You can test things out, yourself. But really what we do is recommend that you use somebody who's handled the security, the provisioning, the authentication, all the kind of guts under the hood that is really difficult. So we say try out someone who actually offers APIs and test it out. And that's a good place to start. Get yourself an Arduino and just try it, because that's always the best place to start. It's just something small, something that has an API that says I can connect an application up to the cloud and back, and then that's a good place to start. And then when you need to scale, then you really want to look at somebody who's an IoT platform who can help you get that scale.
As IoT continues to grow and evolve and mature,
Yep.
where do standards play in, and sort of what's the current status, and how big of an issue or is a lack of standardization right now?
So I don't. So the standards kind of issue is both big and small. I think how I've seen it is I don't think standards are as much an issue for kind of cloud-based IoT solutions. So in our case, it doesn't matter as much. We use MQTT, which is kind of becoming a pretty common protocol for getting to the cloud. It's a publish-subscribe messaging service, and it works really well. It's becoming used by a lot of different IoT platforms, and so that's kind of becoming the de facto. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to, but that publish-subscribe messaging is very common. I would say the real kind of standards war is more on the LAN-based. This is like thread, all join, all these kind of standards that are much more about not just device to manufacturing communication, but more product to product across manufacturers. That's the issue. It's really how do you have devices, on a LAN-based home kind of network or whatever vertical network with things in this building, how do they all talk to each other, even though they're not all created by the same company? And I think that's where the standards war is still completely the wild, wild west. No one knows.
Speaking of the Wild Wild West, I imagine security could become a huge Wild Wild West scenario when you start talking about billions of devices being connected, within the next decade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, this is the idea of device manufacturer creating a product with direct one-to-one communication with a customer. That's kind of what Xively is kind of really focused on. Is we've done a lot to handle all that identity and access management, because I think identity is at the heart of a lot of security issues. So if you can handle that and do that at a secure way, it'll be easier. Now, I think the problem, though, will be that more LAN-based kind of communication security, handling all those talking together and who handles the data, who has access to the data, who owns the data. Those are kind of the issues that I think will be a little more tricky. From our perspective, we've done a lot to make sure that security isn't a problem.
What's next for Xively?
So we've really focused on more the kind of, I guess, boring middle layer stuff where it's, but it's the most important, and it's also been the hardest thing to get right. That connectivity, we're able to connect a product. When you hit that app to turn on your lights, it does it in less than 50 milliseconds. So it's super fast. It's also super scalable into the millions. Yeah, billions would be great. But, you have this ability to scale and do that securely. So that requires a lot of management tools, provisioning, all that sort of authentication, all that stuff. So the next step we're really focusing on is more the application layer. How do you build a connected product to business, and how do you manage that well? So the idea would be, if you're the manufacturer of a garage door, you want to have your product management team, your service and support team, your marketing team, each be able to see the data coming off that connected product in different ways that best meets your needs. So if you're in marketing, you can say, oh, well, I noticed they're using our product this way, maybe we should help them delight the customer in this way a little better. Or if you're a service and support team, you have your own application that helps you have tickets that you can open up and see all the information about the customer right there. So when the product breaks, that you already know when they call, yeah, hi, Mr. Johnson, I already see that you have this part broken, we've already shipped it, proactive kind of that in one nice big application. So we're really starting to work on really getting the application layer built up around that nice connectivity and management kind of guts underneath, and that's where we're headed now.
Fantastic. Certainly lots of opportunity in this space. Sean, thanks as always for joining us.
Yeah, nice talking to you. Have a great day.